Good afternoon to all. Thank you all for joining the call. So this is Ganesh here from the company TaurusQuest, and this is our first webinar that we are hosting, and it is being presented by Mr. Shahbaz Hussain, MD of Kievan Accountants in Cardiff, Wales. So our webinar would be focused on how business owners like you will be moving forward from the lockdown, and how you will be building your business resilience from it. So the agenda would be introductions of who we are and what we do, and then from there Shabazz will take it from there. So I'm proud to introduce my COO, Mr. Krish, who has just joined the call, and he would just give a brief about our company and what we do, and then he'll just give an explanation on our type of clients also. Krish, so you can take the call from here, Krish.
Yeah, thank you, Ganesh, and good afternoon to all of you, or good evening to all of you. Uh, like, just to give a brief introduction about TaurusQuest for a few minutes. We have been in this business of providing financial and accounting services for about 14 years now, and we have expertise and teams in different areas of accounting, legal, and XBRL and publishing. As a group, we have about 500 employees serving about more than 12,000 clients. When I say 12,000 clients, it's like each one of you who has joined here in the webinar. And so we have something like around 12,000 all over the world. So we have built our expertise on setting up processes, systems, and controls to make sure that we have a high quality delivery model meeting the requirements of the various clients, even if it comes ad hoc as a special requirement. And we are generally geared up to meet any of the specific situation like COVID, which has come up. And we would be happy to support each one of you in this direction. I would just like to add, we are a company certified for quality, Germany, and based to meet those special quality requirements. So, and as Ganesh mentioned, I am literally 24/7 to including the new ones too. Thanks, and I will now request Shahbaz to take over the questions as the presentation. Thanks once again for joining.
Good. Okay. Hi all. So I'm going to shift. I'm going to take control.
Yeah.
So my name is Shahbaz Hussain. The lead accountant. You can see this whole way of difference between us and other firms is that we're part of a national group of accountants specializing in the small and medium-sized enterprise market. And what we do is each specialist to problems. So I'll give you a simple example. We've taken on a new client recently. They produce vegan food, that's plant-based food. Well, there's an obvious R&D tax credits element there. I'm not an expert on R&D tax credits, but we have a dedicated team that specializes in that area, so they're going to get the leading advice possible. Let's move on to the contents of today's webinar. The first part is an update on government support. And since the pandemic and the lockdown, government has announced a number of different measures to attempt to support and help businesses of all sizes to move through the pandemic and to reduce the number of insolvencies. That is to say, the number of businesses that are going bust, because obviously if businesses go bust, livelihoods are lost and people lose their income, which is an additional strain on the government. I've noted down the 6 areas where small and medium-sized businesses can take advantage of the government support. Actually, many of these are available for larger corporates as well. The first area is paying employees. The word furlough has joined the lexicon of the English language here in this country, but it's always been known in America. And it is a system whereby people who are not allowed to work, for whatever reason, in this case because of the lockdown, are able to be paid via the government. So the government will pay a proportion of their salary. Currently, that's set at 80% of their normal income. And it will be, the government announced this week that that is being extended from only a 3-month period as was initially announced to a 6-month period. We don't quite know the shape of the second 3 months. However, it's expected that instead of being 80% government support, it'll be 60%. And employers, if they're able to, will top up. And those that aren't able to, well, the employees still benefit from having the majority of their income from the government. The second area is statutory sick pay. Now, this is not a lot of money, to be frank. And what it allows is that if your staff go on sick leave due to the virus, you're able to pay them statutory sick pay, but actually the government will pick up the tab. The third area is around reducing the tax burden on companies. So VAT can be deferred up until next year. Those that pay more than £1,000 in tax through self-assessment will know that there's a second tax payment. It's called the second payment on account. That's due at the end of July. You're able to defer that. And HMRC are encouraging everybody to request time to pay. That is to say, a payment plan if they're facing any cash flow difficulties. The fourth area is around business rates relief. All businesses pretty much with a high street presence, that's to say retail, hospitality and leisure, are able to apply for rates relief. That basically means they don't pay any business rates. Nurseries are able to apply also. There's also business support grants. Now, these are different depending upon the type of business, but any business that pays rates or is exempt from paying rates because of small business rate relief is able to get £10,000 or £25,000 as grant money if they're in the retail, hospitality and leisure sector. Now, that is administered by the council. Initially, the plan had been that the council themselves would write and pay the money, but instead, most of the councils that I've come across are actually saying you need to apply for it directly through their website. The final area is support for self-employed, and I want to be clear on this. Self-employed in this context means sole traders, partnerships, and limited companies. There are a number of loans available and grants. I'll start with the top. CBILS loan is really for medium-sized businesses. It's a loan of £50,000 and above. It has 80% government guarantee and no interest to pay in the first year. You can actually negotiate a payment holiday in the first year or at some point during the term as well. This is pretty much a commercial loan. The interest rate is not fixed. It could be high, it could be low, depending upon your activity. And success rate for people applying for this has been relatively low. 33%, 40% from the best banks, 10% from the worst banks. You also need to produce financial forecasts and so on as you would under a normal commercial loan. The Coronavirus Future Fund is really for innovative businesses. This is match funding. That is to say, if you've got investors that are putting in money, the government will match that amount. And it's a convertible loan, which means the loan can be converted into equity at some point. It's not for everybody. That's for innovative businesses. The bounce back loan is an interesting one, though. It allows for businesses to receive up to £50,000 in loans. There's no repayments in the first year. There's no interest in the first year. The government covers those. It's a 6-year term, 2.5% interest from month 13 onwards. So it's very cheap. It's mortgage level interest rates. There are no personal guarantees required. And the maximum amount you can get is 50K. However, it's set at 25% of your last turnover. That's to say your turnover in 2019. Those companies that have started trading only in 2019 are allowed to use an estimate. And then finally, the self-employed income support scheme, which opened just yesterday, and is, I think people experience some teething troubles there. Self-employed people that have got trading profit, not profit from having a buy-to-let property or investments, but trading profit, you can get up to 80% of your trading profit through the government. So it's similar in scale to the furlough scheme from the for employees. Okay, so that's the government support. This is an ever-changing system because the government is talking really in 3-month blocks. So as soon as new information comes out, contact your advisor. You're welcome to contact us for more information on what's available and whether you qualify. Okay. Government support is incomplete, however, and this is not meant to be a party political statement, but there are many, many people that have been excluded from the vast majority of government support because of the nature of their business. So I'll give you an example. A limited company that uses a serviced office and rents a couple of desks, well, it doesn't qualify for the government grants of £10,000 or £25,000. Most directors, owners, directors of limited companies typically pay themselves through a small salary and dividends, and their pay comes in peaks and troughs, the amount of money they take from their company, because sometimes they have a great month and they can pay themselves, and other times they don't have such a good month. I really feel sorry for companies in this situation because they're typically hairdressers, electricians, plumbers, designers. They're not big businesses, they're not millionaires, and there isn't a great deal of support out there for them. In fact, what the government says is go to universal credit. The FSB, that's the Federation of Small Businesses, reckons there are about 5 million people without the kind of lifeline that employees and self-employed people have. Okay, let's move on to something a bit more positive than that. Thriving in the current climate. Well, the first step to thriving is about getting the right mindset. Now, there are 5 stages to loss. There's denial, there's anger, there's bargaining, depression, and then finally acceptance. And it's only at the point of acceptance that anybody takes action. So what I'm saying to all of you is let's move away from the victim mentality and very quickly move through those stages of loss and move to acceptance, because only then can you take responsibility for where you are and take action. And taking action might mean pivoting your business, changing your business for the circumstances. I'll give you the example of the company I spoke about earlier that makes plant-based food, burgers and other such things. They had a very, very successful restaurant. Clearly, since the lockdown, it is not a successful restaurant. It hasn't opened for a number of weeks. Well, they've pivoted their business into a delivery business, and they've done it very rapidly. And it makes complete sense. They had a loyal client base. They had a large email list, and as a result, they're trading and doing very well as a result of the issues. So pivoting your business is really about the long game. It's about thinking into the future. It's about setting measurable goals with milestones. And part of that is to think about your cash position. Now, we've all heard the phrase, cash is king. So what does that mean? Well, cash versus profit are 2 different things. Profit is an accountancy calculation that helps people know what tax they need to pay.
Shahbaz, can you unmute okay, please?
Okay, sorry, yeah, I'm on it.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think the latest entrant is
Yeah.
Let me work out how to do that from my end.
Just click in more over there and just click for Mute. Yeah, Shahbaz, you can continue. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So let's go back to that. Profit is an accountancy calculation. Lots of people talk about their sales. Wow, I've got great sales. I don't care about sales. Lots of people talk about profit. I care about profit only because it tells me how much tax I need to pay to the government, to the tax man. But what I really care about is the cash left in my pocket at the end of everything. And that is why it's important to understand your cash position today. And then think about forecasting what that cash position might be over the next 3 months. Now, why over the next 3 months? Why bother forecasting? I'm not asking you to create a roadmap here that you're going to follow religiously. Instead, what I'm asking you to do is go through the forecasting process to think about what the issues are. And if you think about the issues are, you can prepare for those issues in advance. Think about what the good scenarios are and what the bad scenarios are. How do they influence the cash outcome after 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, however, whatever period you want to forecast for. And then you'll be able to know exactly how to pivot your business because you will have thought about the problems and the issues along the way. So one of the things that we all need to do is think about how we can reduce the rate at which cash is leaving our businesses. And there are only two components to that. Who do you pay and who pays you? Well, if you at all possible, talk to all of your large suppliers about delaying payments. What difference would it make if instead of paying in 15 days or 30 days, you paid in 45 days? And if someone is not willing, large businesses are not willing to do that, ask them if there are any early payment discounts. Now you'll notice I keep saying large businesses. In my experience, small businesses are really not in a position to accommodate any delayed payments or even give you an early payment discount. Some of them might. So this is why I'm saying concentrate on the large businesses. Not to say you shouldn't ask your small businesses that are suppliers, but go to the large businesses first. And then secondly, who pays you? How can you incentivize them to pay faster? Is there a way of doing this? There's a real estate business that I'm familiar with where they do commercial real estate, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, with the lockdown, is in dire straits. What they have done is, welcome Shahbaz, please can you mute your line, please? I've just added Shahbaz. So what they have done, the commercial real estate business, is they've said, listen, we know we've got problems here. What I'm willing to do is give you 15 months for the price of 12, but you need to pay up front. Not the whole 12 months, but half or a quarter. And they've changed the terms depending upon who the customer is and their thoughts on their ability to pay. So there's some intelligent things you can go there and you can bring cash in. That commercial real estate business has never brought in so much money in any 1 month before. So, and if you think about it, the money is definitely better in their pocket than anyone else's because they're then able to build their resilience. Okay. The other obvious thing is whatever government support is available to you, you need to get it. You need to take it. The business bounce back loan is something that I strongly recommend everybody to take. Now, let's be clear about this. This is not tide me over money. This is not money to pay your mortgage at home. This is money to grow your business in some way. But often, pivoting your business, changing your business, adapting your business to the circumstances does require some additional cash. Do you need to repurpose your kitchen from being a restaurant kitchen to being a delivery kitchen? Does that require cash? Yes, it does. So there are things that we all need to do within our businesses to get ready for this new environment. And there are things that we need to do to be ready for the post-lockdown days. So as soon as the lockdown ends, what are you going to do? What are you planning to do that's different? How will you fund it? As I said, the business bounce back loan is a really interesting way of doing this because it's so cheap. It's really very cheap lending. Don't forget, although it's guaranteed by the government, you do have to repay it. If you're not paid quickly, so for example, the the government grants that are available for rate-paying businesses and businesses that are exempt through the small business rates relief. Chase them, chase them, chase them, chase them. Don't rest until that money is in your bank account. Here's an interesting idea. Lots of small business owners, whether they're self-employed through sole trader, partnership, or limited companies, will have a private pension scheme. And that is typically via a SIP or a SAS. SIP is a self-invested private pension scheme. In fact, what they are is they're wrappers around your pension money, and a wealth manager will typically invest those based on your risk appetite. Well, those pension schemes are able to lend money on commercial terms to businesses. So if you need it, why wouldn't it lend money to your business? Now, for those people that are worried about repaying it, yes, it's on commercial terms, but lots of loans can be rolled over. And in addition to that, rates of interest are right now very low. So even a commercial rate of interest might be lower than you think. But this is an option available to anybody with their own private pension schemes. R&D tax credits is another area. Now, I want to be clear about R&D tax credits. Lots of businesses think, well, that's nothing to do with us. We're not doing anything truly innovative. What we're doing is the same as the company over there and the company over there. Let me return to the plant-based food company. They've developed their own burgers and sausages and other meat-free products, all from plants. Anyone had a plant-based burger before? I've been eating those things since I was a kid. So it's not new and innovative. However, it still applies. It's still a qualifying cost, because if you develop something yourself, then you're still able to claim R&D tax credits. So you're able, and this is the way it works, you're able to claim for the cost of developing this new product. And it could be a member of staff that's salary that you would take. It might be a subcontractor, could be a number of different costs. And then on top of that, you can get an additional 130% deduction. So that's a total of 230% that can either reduce your corporation tax or give you a cash payout. And it can be processes, it can be products, it can be services, all sorts of things. Really important that you talk about R&D tax credits with an expert in R&D tax credits. Don't talk to your average general practitioner accountant, because they'll know the minimum, but they won't have experts in the background. So for example, we have a client that develops software. Well, our R&D tax credit team has got software engineers that are able to then, in the application to HMRC for the tax credits, highlight exactly why the tax credits application is valid. So it's about bringing experts to bear on this. Something positive. Tell the world you're still open. Everybody that you've ever done business with, everybody that you've ever interacted with, suppliers, customers, prospective customers, former clients, doesn't matter who it is, tell them you're still in business and tell them exactly what you're doing. What you'll find is a lot of your competitors have either shut up shop or they're running on a skeleton staff and actually not being able to deliver. And that is an opportunity for you to help these people that need your services to move forward. So this is definitely a really important one. Just tell people you're open. Tell everybody. And this is something that I tell everybody myself. We talk about what are the key competitive advantages that a particular firm has got. Could be technology, could be speed, but in the end, there's only one differentiator that matters, and that is providing superior service. And superior service can be as simple as keeping your promises. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. Not you do it a day late and apologize, but you do it, because by doing it a day late and apologizing makes you a liar. So go for superior service at all costs. And what you'll find is that word will spread very quickly, and you'll be inundated with work. So don't think to yourself that there's only the technological advantage and someone's got a superior product. Superior products don't matter, it's the service that matters, particularly for small businesses where the personal side is the most important aspect for many. Okay, this is something that I go through with all new clients, and we go through it on an annual basis, and that is your personal balance sheet. Now, I haven't used the term in the heading because people get afraid of the term balance sheet, but a balance sheet is really simple. On one side, you have the assets that you own, and on the other side, you have the liabilities that you have. Personal balance sheet might actually have similar things on each side. So you own a property, it's an asset. It's got a mortgage on it, it's a liability. One minus the other is probably still likely to be a positive number. So what do you own that is an asset? And for me, I'm quite hard on this. An asset is something that is income generating. So the home that you live in, if you own it, is not an asset, it's a liability. It's costing you the mortgage every month. You do get a benefit from it insofar as you're living there. And some people say, as a result, you should work out exactly what your true value of that is and put it in the asset side. I don't believe that at all. It is taking cash away from you for whatever period of time, and that means it's a liability. So it's in the section that you owe. There's another angle to this. Since the virus and since the lockdown, some people will have assets that have become liabilities. So one of the areas that we have deep knowledge in is property. And we've got a number of clients that specialized in serviced accommodation, that is to say Airbnb style accommodation. And they were making significant amounts of cash, much more than if they rented on a long-term basis. But of course, with the lockdown, most of their properties are empty. Those assets are suddenly liabilities unless they can pivot the business into perhaps providing accommodation for key workers or other types. I think what we're going to see as the lockdown lifts is many of the people will shift from having serviced accommodation, Airbnb style accommodation, and they'll shift to having what are called assured short-term hold tenancies, which is basically your bog standard tenant comes in and rents for a year or 2 years or however long. I suspect that's the way that it will go, which will probably have the impact of reducing rental income. We'll see what happens next. But this is a really important aspect. How strong is your personal financial position? Do it now, do it every year, and make plans based on this. Your plans will include what is your business needs to do to take you to the financial position that you want. So you take a look at your financial position today, where you want it in 3 years' time. There is a gap. How will you meet your dreams and bridge that gap? This is a really, really important. It's a really important tool. It's a really important thought exercise. And finally, this is something that as a firm and as a business owner, I've been doing since 2010 when I first started out in business, and that is outsourcing. Now, as an accountant, I can tell you that there are certain activities that bring in money and certain activities that really bring in very little money or are a loss for us. Payroll, we don't make any money on it. Bookkeeping, we generally don't make any money on it. And for an accountant like me that's a growth-focused accountant, I'm not that interested in producing a set of accounts either, to be frank. So yes, we can do that and we can make some money, but the greatest value I can add to a customer is to help them to achieve their growth goals for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. And that's much more important than producing a set of accounts, because in the end, the accounts are for the tax man. They're not for anyone else. So we've been using our outsourcing as a way of cost reduction, as a means of allowing us to focus on what we're good at, which is assisting people in growing their businesses or reducing their tax bills. Gives our staff higher levels of morale. I'll explain that. If you take the repetitive and boring tasks away from someone and tell them, listen, I've got this really interesting project. Why don't you work on that? Their morale will lift automatically, right? Because they're not doing the boring, repetitive stuff. They're doing interesting work that is growing them as an individual and also making them happy. And it affects your bottom line in the end as well, right? It grows your cash. It allows your staff to contribute to the cash at the end of the year and increasing it. So outsourcing is a really, really, really important thing to consider. And you can outsource anything. You can have virtual assistants dealing with admin tasks. In our case, TaurusQuest is a partner of ours, and they provide a lot of help to us on many different areas, actually, within the accountancy sphere. It's not just bookkeeping and payroll. And it allows us time then to concentrate on the value-added work. So I can't labor it enough. This is a really key area to concentrate on, especially if you're like me and you're focused on growing cash instead of thinking about how much profit that you've made so that you can then pay the tax man the right amount of money. Okay, so we've whizzed through this really rather quickly. I'm going to take a look at the chat because I can see.
Shahbaz, as of now, no one has typed in something. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So if anybody does have any questions, we're here and ready to answer them. They can be on any topic really, outside of what we've talked even, but do keep it related to your business, please.
Shahbaz, can you make me the host for a few minutes?
Sure.
Yeah.
If I can understand how to do it.
Okay. Just click near to my name. Just click on participants.
Yeah.
And then you'll have my name. And then you have mute and more. Just click on more. You will have option of making me the host.
There we are. Yes.
Yeah. So anyone have a questions, please. I'm unmuting all. So if you have any questions, just go ahead, please.
Hi, everybody. This is Hussain speaking. I have a question. I don't know if you hear me. This is the first time I'm using this.
Yeah, we are hearing you perfectly.
Good. Hi. I received a letter from my bank, Lloyd's Bank Business Account, offering. They are adding around, if I ask for a 50,000 loan, there seems to me there is a £1,250 the first year of interest. The bank is charging me, although the government says that it is free of interest. Am I right reading it that way?
Thank you for your question, Shahbaz. So the government business bounce back loan has no repayments in the first year, and the government pays the interest in the first year. So what I'd like you to do is check with the bank that this is in fact a bounce back loan and not a commercial loan. So at the start of lockdown, when the loan schemes were first announced, a number of the banks received applications from businesses around the country for the government supported loans. And what they did was something quite unethical, and they directed them to their own products, which are clearly not as attractive as the government-backed loans, because the government-backed loans have the government guarantee, which means that the interest.
I think
sure the bounce back loan,
yeah,
the coronavirus.
If it is, yeah, I think it is there also that at the end of. Okay, my question is then, how can I apply for the government loan in this case? By directly going onto the government
No, so
website?
the applications for the business bounce back loan are done directly through the bank's website, and almost all of the high street banks have now got their own forms up. The only one that doesn't currently is Metro Bank, but the other banks all seem to have got their act together and.
But has it got to be the bank that my account is with, or any bank can do it for me?
So there's no restriction on you going to any bank, except that all bar one of the banks have stopped taking new customers. So HSBC is the only one taking new customers, and HSBC also has something called a feeder bank account, which you can apply for. So if you have a business that does not have a business bank account, it's only got a personal account that you've used, or if your business is relatively new and doesn't have a bank account at all, or if your bank is not providing the tools and the application process to get the business bounce back loan, you can apply for an HSBC feeder bank account, which is a temporary bank account. They create the temporary bank account, they get you the loan, and they transfer the money to whichever account you want them to. But it's just as easy to then open up your own HSBC account if you're going to do that. And I would suggest that anybody whose bank has not done the right thing and got their systems up to date really quickly, that they should probably change bank accounts, because the bank has failed them. And banks that fail you should be punished by you leaving them.
Mm. And the second question is that the guidelines on this loan says we can lend you up to 25% of your annual turnover. Some businesses have no turnover, like my income is from rents, so I'm not like a retail business to have a 10% of £1 million turnover where I buy and sell commodities.
Mm-hmm.
My income is a pure income. So as a pure income, as you know, it is almost less, a little bit of expenses, mainly income. So how would that be? Would they still give me 25%
of turnover
of that
up to £50,000? And it's for
Yeah.
trading businesses, so not for investment businesses. So investment income doesn't count in the calculation. So based on what you've told me, your trading income is nil, and you have investment income of X. As a result, you wouldn't qualify for the business bounce back loan because your income is limited. But listen, there are a number of businesses out there that have only recently started trading. So I have a client that started in January, and all they can do is estimate what their trading income would be. This is a lettings management company. They started in January. They've done quite well so far, and they expect to become 150K, maybe 200K, but more like 150K between January and December 2020. As you can see, most of what I'm saying is actually a forecast. In that situation, they're allowed to use their forecast rather than their trading income. So if you did any kind of pilot for a new business, you could use that as the basis of an application. But I want to be really, really clear on this. Apply for the right amount, and don't just apply for the maximum because you can get away with it. Because in the end, you have to pay it back.
Sure.
It's a 6-year payment term, no payment. So as a temple, people to then say, well, I'm just for the maximum, it's guaranteed. There are very few people being rejected for this. Just be careful on that. And be careful also if you're going to then apply for the money and take it out personally. Because if you take it out of your business, if it's a limited company, that's a dividend, and the dividend you'll have to pay tax on it at up to 32.5%. So there are lots of things to think about when you're thinking about this money. This is not just a gift from government. It's something you have to pay back, and if you use it for personal means, you'll have to pay tax on it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that's very clear. My last question, just as you experts on that. What do you expect? An inflation or a recession? I mean, all this cash has been injected into the economy. That causes inflation on the face value, but at the same time, people not earning and not have a lot of commercial activities, and GDP is down. This is a sign of recession. I'm really confused. What is going to happen in your view?
That's a good
Shahbaz?
question.
This
Yes.
is a big question. I'll
Yeah.
give you my take on it, which is a bit more positive than some people. So inflation comes about when you have demand outstripping supply. But I don't think that we're going to have that situation when the lockdown ends, because we haven't got we've got an increase in unemployed people, sure, but it isn't a massive increase. And if we compare this period to the period post-Second World War, there are lots of similarities, People are going to come back into the world of work. People are not broke because of the government schemes, and there will be the opportunity for lots of businesses to thrive, whether there's a recession or not. I don't feel that there are a great many inflationary pressures. Wage inflation is not likely to occur because there is an unemployment rate, so there isn't an oversupply of workers. People will be looking to sell as much as possible. They're not likely to increase their prices, I wouldn't have thought. So I don't think inflation is too much of a worry. If you think about the post-war period as well, whatever inflation there was actually helped to reduce government debt, right? Because the value of the debt decreased thanks to the inflationary pressure. But I don't think we're going to see a spike in inflation. I don't feel that government debt is unbearable. And I really strongly believe that in every recession, I think there may be a downturn. I'm not a doom monger, and I don't think there'll be a depression, but I think there might be a downturn. In every recessionary period, there are businesses that knuckle down and are very successful. And those businesses that are successful in a recession launch like a rocket after the recession. So this is one of the reasons why I'm really focused on my clients, on what is happening with the cash flow, on strategic planning around the cash flow, and really understanding, number one, their goals, but also where their business is and how we can move it forward. It's not an entirely negative picture.
Yeah,
If I may add, Shahbaz, to whatever you said, I'm Krish here. I'm Krish here, and I can tell you with my loads of experience in having seen these kind of ups and downs in several countries across the globe in terms of services, as well as physically living there with people like this. Like what Shahbaz rightly pointed out, even during the presentation and when answering this question, so long as the money that is being given by the government are being fruitfully employed. Please underline the word fruitfully employed, because this is one very, very important lesson for each business owner, as well as for each of, for instance, anybody for that matter. For instance, like what Shahbaz said, that let's say that we get a loan of 50,000 or 50K from the government. And suppose, let's say that you are in a business of providing a restaurant. Now, obviously, you need to make your own business judgment to see whether the change or the investment that you're going to make is really going to add value to your business. For instance, if you're converting a kitchen from a kitchen of a normal capacity and a normal delivery model where people come and eat, as opposed to converting it to a delivery model for takeaway, it could be a very good business investment, because at the end of the day, your business is going to go. But on the other hand, on the contrary, if you just think that this investment is for instance, you do a big makeover in your business, try to make it jazzy where people come and see, obviously it could be a failure model. I'm just giving it a very small example to extend it on a very global level. For instance, in 2008, as you all know, when there was a great recession, US injected lots and loads of money. And there were exactly the same questions. There's so much money coming in. Is it going to add inflation pressures? Is it going to bring down all the businesses? Are all the businesses going to fail? And I'm sure many of you might have lost your shirt in any investment, say in a bank or in a rosy business at that point in time. But I can tell you, for instance, I remember RBS was almost going to go bust. And it was probably trading around £5 or £7. But they all came back because they probably invested the money, they used the money most productively and employed it. So whether it's individual business or the government, so long as the money is productively employed and so long as it's generating more and more business, like Shahbaz said, I'm also optimistic. The best managed business will run. And that's why you have experts like Shahbaz and me who can really guide you through in any of this kind of forecasting situation. And we have loads of experience in saying this.
Yeah. If I may follow up with Krish's comment and a question for him. Krish, thank you for this explanation. My view is about to change on whether there will be an inflation or not since the extension of the furlough payment up to end of August, with a further hundreds of billions of pounds into the economy. That and the point you mentioned, the loans businesses take, for example, upgrading your restaurant kitchen, while we all know that the ending of the lockdown is going to be incremental and very, very slow. And
Correct.
for a substantial period of time, services and catering is going to be operating in third or quarter capacity. How can this guy who spends alone on a kitchen gain back this money using gaining or operating at a quarter or third capacity? That makes me worried with the generating of this income. Can you explain,
Absolutely.
please?
Absolutely. That's a very good question. And in fact, it can be answered in two parts. One in a purely economic perspective and two in a sort of a business perspective. Now, let me talk a little bit of economics on this. Like Shahbaz mentioned, the inflation or deflation is a question of supply and demand. So now, for instance, when there is too much of supply and too much of, when too much of money is coming in, because there is too much of supply, and suppose if the people start spending all that money, normally that should result in inflation. Because when you have 1,000 more and then you want to spend that 1,000, and because 10 people like you are trying to spend, with the demand for the goods are going up, so there's an inflation. This is a pure play economics. So now let me come to the business question, like what you rightly posed. In terms of economics, yes, it should mean there's an inflation. But then what happens is, because it is not a simple arithmetics that the money comes, everybody spends, money comes, a person like you start thinking in terms of whether you are putting it into the right investment. So you make a very judicious call. In the same example, you have to make sure that you make 100% market projections, 100% financial projections, run it through experts like us, make sure that you are not missing anything in your calculations, and then take a business decision. So when people do that, normally what happens is, I'll get back to the same example what I said, it gets into productive investments, it creates jobs, it meets people's requirements, the demand and supply is balanced. Probably that in this recovery could be could be U-shaped, could be V-shaped, whatever we read, but at some point in time, the recovery would come back. That's why, like, I've been speaking to many accountants, many partners like Shahbaz, and all of them have the same bottom line. You have to have your judicious decision making, and this is probably you can say a golden period for accountants and specialists to really advise or really work together. Because when we talk to people like you, we don't talk like accountants or just financial consultants. We try and understand your requirements. We think that it is our money which you are committing when we advise for you. So when you have that kind of genuineness and take a proper decision, and everybody does like that in UK, in the world, obviously the economics part will not come into play. Business part will come in, like 2008, like when USA started really kicking back, the country would kick back. I hope I've answered your question.
Shahbaz?
Thank you very much, Chris. I think that was a very, very comprehensive answer. I'd like to give opportunity for anyone else that has any questions to either raise their hands or post in the comments, please. We've got about 5 minutes left. We will stop at 4 p.m. sharp. I'll give an opportunity for anyone to raise their hands or ask a question in the comments.
Gulten, do you have any questions? Okay.
If nobody has.
Yeah.
There are no further questions. I will bring the webinar to a close. What I'd like to do is, for all those of you that have registered via the online form, I will share with you the presentation and also some links and further details on the government support that's actually available. And I'll share that by email with you. Any other participants that wish to receive that information and have not signed up through the form, please use the link that you have to post your contact details so that we can send that to you. The link is bit.ly, so that's bit.ly/KA.
You can just paste it over there in the chat window, Shahbaz.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay. If you have it to hand, would you do it, Ganesh?
Yeah, I'll do that. So just give me a minute.
I'm not.
Yeah, just give me a minute.
I'm not very good with Zoom, as you can see.
Yeah, just give me a minute. I'm just checking it. So you want me to paste that URL for? Yeah. Just give me a minute. I'm just looking into it. So register link, right?
Yeah, please. So in the meantime, whilst Ganesh is doing that, I'd like to invite you all to, if you'd like to talk further about any aspect of what we've discussed, please get in touch with either Kievan Accountants or TaurusQuest directly, and we'd be delighted to speak to you. If you need any informal advice, I'm very happy to speak to you on that front. And if you're looking for a longer-term relationship, we're here to provide service. I can see that there are a number of things that have come through on the chat.
I have typed in the link and I have typed in my email ID and my company's website. And Shahbaz, you do also share your email ID, Shahbaz.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, thank you very much for your time and advice. Are you planning to do further webinars?
There will be further webinars.
Yes.
TaurusQuest have started a program of webinars they're hosting.
Yeah, Shahbaz.
The right experts for the topics. It may be me next time, it might not be, but they're bringing in real experts on each area. Watch out on LinkedIn and so on. And if you'd like to know about the next free webinar, then get in touch and we'll keep you in the loop.
Yeah, Shahbaz.
Thank you all, and thanks, Shahbaz, for your brilliant presentation. And it's been a pleasure meeting all of you, and wish you all the very best. And we will stay connected and touch. Thank you, Ganesh.
Thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you, Shahbaz.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks all. Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.